Hello, you multi-malt mateys, and thank you to Peter Smith for providing the malt mention. Thank you, Peter. To Ralphie Review 908, which is one of the final whisky reviews that I'm doing in the year 2021. So before too long, this is going to become part of the historical archive that is the developing internet. There we go. People will look back in future years, they will, at all this mass of evidence and anecdotes and opinions, and they'll say, in the old days, when we were only in one planet, where the entire humanoid collective was in one single planet in the good old days when everything was so simple, and in the good old days they were able to get this substance called single malt whisky. They didn't need these fancy replicators like we now use in the starships to create an approximation. Anyway, before I get too distracted with my wild imagination here, let's get back to the reality of a very competent, engaging and decent single malt, which I'm going to review for you because I've been sitting on it for quite a while, but the time has come and I would like to introduce to you as part of a special edition range called what's it called again? A special release. That's what it is. Special release from Diageo, who own Cragganmore Distillery. This is the 12-year-old, and it's bottled at a natural cask strength of 58.4%. So there you go. I have to say the standard Cragganmore 12-year-old is pretty decent malt. Like Glenelgan, another decent malt from Diageo, it's a bit off people's radar and it often gets overlooked in favour of the more famous single malts like Lagavulin and Talisker, two good examples, which to be honest in my opinion can occasionally disappoint, depending on which version you buy. Lovely squeaky cork, by the way. Here, we'll give it an extra squeak. Cask strength. It's a space cider, by the way. A little hint of smokiness, probably coming from the casks. But by and large, this is a fresh fruit, slightly sweeter style of single malt, which is pretty easy access and fairly dependable batch to batch. Of course, being a cask strength version, I might add, by the way, before I forget to mention it, that when you look at the prices of Diageo's special releases, it can cause a little bit of distress because some of them are extortionately expensive for what they actually are. And to be honest, it's up to you to be discerning, critical, and mind your money. If a whisky looks too expensive to you, it is, and don't buy it. I'm reviewing this because as a special release it was one of the cheapest that was available, and frankly, having tasted some of the others now that I wasn't prepared to buy, I think my purchase has been validated by the quality of this. On the nose, you really don't get much indication as to the cask strength nature of this single malt and how high the alcoholic volume is. When you nose this, you're getting nothing like 58% alcohol. It's really quite rounded. There's a quietly understated complexity of flavour, including pineapple and banana. When you taste it, you're going to get a big impact, but it's pleasantly so. It's not harsh, far from it. It's intense and it's well-rounded. For its 12 years, it's been good maturation, solid success in that respect. You're dealing with some pretty reasonable active casks, many of which, in my impression, are first fill ex-bourbon casks. The banana comes through, soft sultana, a little vanilla, a little touch of icing sugar in the distance, some mild spices, including soft cinnamon and a little bit of, what's it called again? Cardamom, thank you. And thanks for reminding me about that one. Cardamom, soft, light but intense with it. It is a really interesting delivery of an accessible, lighter Speyside, sweet-natured whisky. At this strength, the intensity is being delivered without any awkward, jaggy edges, and it comes along delightfully so on first taste. I am going to add water because this will help me to get access to this. I'm not going to add a full teaspoon from my patent measuring system. I'm adding about half a teaspoon, so roughly 2.5 to 3 millilitres of water. And in a very short space of time, you're going to see quite a significant and noticeable change on the nose. It becomes creamier. It becomes a little bit more herbaceous. It becomes more complex. It becomes a little more astringent on the nose. When you go to taste it, it starts out even stronger on the arrival. Soft gingery, loads of vanilla and honey. The honey's really kicking in now. But that soft brulee banana and mild pineapple in the background, still retaining its full signature presence, defining this Cragganmore as a thoroughbred Cragganmore. And the development starts to get a little bit more herbaceous, and gingery gets more intensified, a little more acidity, a little more bite, until we reach the finish where that sprinkling of ginger and tannins come together with a tail end of vanilla and leaves you feeling very well rewarded. What would I give this out of 100? Well, I'd like to share something with you. First pour, I would have given it 82 out of 100. After the third pour, I'd have given it about 85 out of 100. When I recently introduced this on my first ever live stream for Patreon subscribers and tasted it then, I'd have gone up to 87 out of 100. At this moment in time, it's the formal review, so I've tasted this quite a few times, just small volumes, keeping it quality, not quantity. I would say it's a very decent 86 out of 100, and that is a malt mark, not an integrity malt mark, because I do believe there's a little bit of chill filtration going on here, although when you look at this, you can clearly see, whatever your level of experience, that there's very, very little, if any, caramel colourant going on in there at all. The problem is, as always, is that there's no reason at all, no reason whatsoever why the manufacturers could not respect us just a little bit more than they do by actually stating it on the label. I'm looking around. You get the drink-aware stuff, which is commendable, but special release, and that's about it. They do claim in the label, and I'll add this as well, just to bring it to your attention, that an unusual smoky expression of a Speyside classic. To their credit, there is a touch of smoke in the finish, but it's not that prominent to me. But hey, That's my palate. Our palates do vary. For some people it will be more noticeable, and for other people it will be less noticeable. But fair play, they're reminding us that it's there. There is a little bit of smokiness. You notice it more in the development, certainly not in the arrival, and it is a little bit wispy in the finish, but you know, maybe it could have just been a little more clearly defined. But hey ho, there we go. I'm Ralphie. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll have one final look in case I've missed it. In case I've missed it in the carton. That, you know, it's natural colour and unchill filtered, but hey, it's Diageo. They very rarely, if ever, provide that information, and it's such a shame because there is no reason why they couldn't. It's just, I regard this as a communication breakdown. It wouldn't matter a few years ago, but with the price of whiskey now and people's expectations globally for when it comes to buying quality money, spending the money and buying quality malt, and the price you're paying, communication is a hugely important part of marketing and messaging. You know, messaging, communication, they're one and the same. And the lack of it comes across, frankly, as patronising. But that's just purely a personal opinion. So I cannot call this an integrity malt. Thank you for joining me for this review. I'm Ralphie, in the bothy, keeping it cosy, and it's the middle of winter now, and so having a cosier bothy, it stops the kind of the mist that you occasionally see in my breath from the old days when I only had an open fire to heat the bothy rather than a proper stove. Makes a big difference. And again, I'd just like to thank my Patreon subscribers who joined me for my first ever live stream, purely for Patreon subscribers, in which I introduced this as my next review. And there you have it, folks. I'm Ralphie. I'll be back along shortly with 908 extras in which I shall be bringing wine and whiskey together in a most unusual and original experience. I think you're probably quite intrigued about what's going to be going on. Well, you won't have long to wait to find out. Please join me then in the bothy. As always, I'm Ralphie. Over and out.